Welcome back, you guys. We are now on episode 3. My name is Paige.
And I'm Cindy.
And this is Mom's the Word.
Where mom knows best.
Or at least she's trying her best.
So last episode was heavy for me. I talked about foster care, my journey. It was a lot, and it always is, and there's going to be always questions.
Absolutely.
But something that I find unique in our friendship is that I take care of little kids, and you are the adult version of some of those kids and what they're dealing with.
Yeah, I guess in a lot of ways I probably am.
Yeah, and you've spoken on it before, but I'd love to go more in depth and kind of talk about your childhood, your mom. So the first question I really want to get into is, how old were you when your mom left?
When she officially left,
Yeah.
I think I was 4. From what I've been told, I was 4. I don't remember the day exactly. I don't remember the transition really either. I don't remember going from I live with mommy to I live with daddy. My dad remembers it, of course. And what he has told me is he was just very excited to get me for my every other weekend visit. And I came with a backpack. And in that backpack was a ballerina leotard, a winter's outfit. It was summer, a winter sweater outfit. And that was it. And Sunday rolled around and nobody came.
Nobody came.
Nobody came.
And your 4-year-old little self sitting there waiting.
Mm-hmm. Probably had no idea at that point. Probably had no idea. And I think what is hard for me is that I look at Boston, who is now 4.
Yes.
And I think, how? Because I just don't understand, I guess. And it's hard for me because I think that the misunderstanding has only gotten deeper as I get deeper into motherhood. I just don't know how you would want to miss out on those moments.
It's hard for me because I see it in a perspective where, kids are coming into care. 4. I've had, 3, 4-year-old. Mm-hmm. And seeing them go through that is heartbreaking because their little hearts do not fully understand what's going on.
Not at all.
They're thinking, my mom is coming back. Mm-hmm. And on those days that they don't show up, I have to pick up those pieces and put this mask on, like telling them what's happening, but in a way that is not going to create trauma for the rest of their life because, unfortunately, yours has been lifelong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that my dad did the very best that he could.
Right.
And that he loved me. I don't want anybody to think that I had a terrible childhood. I had a painful childhood because I was very aware of big adult situations that were going on in my world. I think I was exposed to that a little too early, but I had a good childhood. My dad loved me. My stepmom loved me.
Right.
But ultimately what I remember most and what resonates with me most as an adult is that feeling of, why wasn't I good enough for you to stay? Was it something wrong within me? As a little girl, I was just very confused.
Right.
I was very confused and didn't really understand what was happening.
Yes.
And my dad will tell me different things about, like, I would see her, and then, we would be told, I'll be back, and next weekend I'm going to come back and I'm going to get you and we're going to do this, this, and this. And then that Friday would roll around and I would be so excited because I would remember. Right. I would not forget.
Right.
And I would be
counting
like,
the days.
Yeah. I'd be like, I'm going with my mom today.
Yes.
And my dad would be like, I don't know, baby. We haven't heard from her this week. I don't know. We'll see. And I'm like, no, she told me she was coming. She's coming. So I would pack my bag. And at that point, we had AR reading, if you know what AR reading is, when you're required as a kid.
Yes.
And so I would sit on the porch and complete my AR reading. We had like this wood fence, like posts that you could sit on the porch. So I would sit up there and perch and just watch the cars pass and just wait for hers to come down the road. And I can remember I would switch positions because we had 2 roads. It was at a 4-way fork. And I knew she would come from one of the 2. So I would switch to where I could see one of those roads in hopes of her car coming down. And I must say about 99% of the time, it never came. My dad would have to take me to Brahms or somewhere. He said I would have to distract you.
It makes me really emotional to hear that and picture you. Literally I could tear up, guys, because I have literally been in that situation with a child. And knowing that you had to go through that is heartbreaking because you have so much hope that they're going to come.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's multiple times.
Multiple times.
And so as the adult, as your dad, and now as me as an adult taking care of children in foster care, it is heartbreaking to see you have to go through that and then try to pick up those pieces.
I think that is a very hard thing to think about, is that as a child, I focused so many hours on the waiting. The thing that really as an adult makes me feel like, oh my gosh, like makes me realize how much pain I was in, was I can remember whenever I got my first landline phone, my own phone line, right? My dad needed a fax machine technically, but they didn't tell me that. They said, you get your own phone.
You get your
I was
phone.
like, yes, so excited. So I had my own phone in my own room. And one day I'd checked the mail and there was a Yellow Pages phone book in it. And so I took the phone book in my room and hid it under the bed. And I would circle the spots for similar names of hers or my stepdad's names. And I would, this messes me up even to talk about it. I would call. I mean, back in the 90s, you think you have the voicemail box like on your kitchen counter. Like you'd come home and click the button and it
your
would
little
play
voice
out loud.
on there. Oh.
And it would be me. I can't imagine now being a 30-year-old woman if I came home and pressed play on a voicemail box and there was this 6-year-old's voice on the other end. And I'd be like, I don't know if you're my mom. I don't know if this is my mom, but you have the same name as my mom and it was in the phone book and I just want you to come back. Would you come back? I miss you. I love you. This is my number now. You can call me here,
That's heartbreaking.
And I would do that to hundreds of phone numbers.
And no one called back.
No one ever called back. And so I'm certain that there are adults out there that can recall that can remember a little girl on the voicemail saying that. And I, as an adult, can't imagine hearing a little girl like that. And it really, it really does something to me mentally to think about all of the things that happened in those years and all of the ways that I tried to cope and tried to find her whenever Google came out and I would Google her name and things like that. And I don't know necessarily what role my dad played in it. There are a lot of speculations and a lot of different accusations from both sides, to be fair, from both sides. It's never really one. It's always they put the blame on each other.
Absolutely.
It's always, it's your mom's fault.
Yes.
It was your dad's fault. And it's just a constant battle and fight, I feel like, for the rest of my life. And the only person I feel like that it really genuinely hurt deep down was me.
Right.
And I hate to even say that because there's a part of me that hopes that it also hurt my mom. And I have spoken to her, of course, and she does say like, oh, it killed me to be apart from you and things. But I think.
But there was no actions. And so that hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. As
and now that you're a mom.
I don't understand.
Don't understand that.
Yeah. It wasn't always like that. I will say it was not always like that. She was in and out of my life from the time I was 4, probably until about 9. I used to think it was 7. For some reason, I used to think in my brain it was 7, but I saw a picture of us recently, and I had to have been 9 because there's like that old school timestamp at the bottom. And I can remember she would come like once every 3 months, once every 6 months, once a year. It was just kind of very sporadic. It was always very random. It was never every other weekend. My every other weekend visit was actually with my Lita, who was her mother.
Okay.
And she lived out in Fort Worth, and she would drive all the way into
Denison,
which is about a good 2-hour drive, to pick me up every other weekend. And we would go to the mall, and we would go to the movies, and IHOP. Oh my gosh, every time we'd go to IHOP, she would order crepes. And if they were not piping hot, she was sending them back. It would just embarrass me so bad as a child. But now I look back and I'm like, oh, Lita, yes. I miss her so much. God rest her soul. But
during those times you see your mom?
No.
During those, not like you said, every 3 months.
Yeah.
Was it a sincere interaction? Do you felt like it healed you during those moments?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But then they would be far too apart, right? Like it's just, it wasn't enough.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I would be around her, I was just the happiest kid. I had my mom, and that's all I wanted. I also have 2 older sisters. I am one of 6 siblings, but I have no full blood siblings. So I have 2 older sisters that are biologically my mom's children. And then I have a younger sister and 2 younger brothers that are biologically my dad's children. So I wanted to be around them
Right.
a lot because my older sisters would also get to come. They didn't live with her primarily either, but they would also get to come and we'd get to spend time together. And I craved it.
It felt normal for that time.
Yes. And I can remember being handed a nightgown that was hers, that was like silky and beautiful. And I would keep it hidden at the bottom of my underwear drawer as a kid because I didn't want my dad to take it. And I would take it out randomly and put it on to see if it fit because I wanted to be able to wear it. And so instead, I would just hold it and cry and wish that she would be able to come back. And it was really very hard for me to understand why, because I blamed my dad whenever I was little. I was like, you have to be doing something that she doesn't want to come because she always loves being around me and it's always so much fun. And so I just was angry in a sense, more at him than at her. I really felt like it was his fault. And then
you had to blame somebody though, because if not, children tend to blame themselves.
And I was, even being that I was trying to blame him, I was definitely blaming myself because a part of me also thought that she was raising my sisters and that I was the one that was.
Why am I not with them?
Yeah, like what was wrong with me?
And being so young and seeing them with her.
Oh my gosh, I really felt like something was absolutely wrong with me. And I've said this before, but it led me to a lot of really crummy relationships, both friendships and romance. And because I didn't know my worth at all, and I was just accepting anything as love because anything felt like love. I'd never been shown unconditional love before. So I just would bend and change into whoever this person needed me to be because I was so desperately afraid of that abandonment feeling again. And it would make it feel just like not having my mother again if I cut off one of those relationships.
And because of that abandonment from your mom, that has been reflected in every one of your relationships now.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like it'll be something lifelong, or do you feel like you've been able to heal a little bit? I know it's never going to heal your inner child.
Yeah.
But have you found ways to cope with that now that you're a mom? It's got to be very hard.
Yes and no. Yes and no. So there's ultimately a large part of me that feels healed. But there will always be a piece of me that is still broken, and I can't go back in time and fix that.
Yes.
It's broken, and there's no way to mend it back together. I can glue it,
Yeah.
but it'll still have cracks.
Yeah.
So yes and no. Yes and no with that. She left officially when I was 9.
Yeah.
I didn't see her from the time I was 9 until I was 17, not a single time. And in that time, my dad was like, let's get counseling. Because in 4th grade, I really struggled very badly, to the point that my teacher was like, we need some help here. I was going to the nurse every day and just wanting to lay down. I just wanted to be in my bed. And as a child, I was depressed. And it was really hard. So my dad said, let's look into a counselor, right? That's typically what you would do.
Yes.
This counselor is the very reason my dad, A, didn't sign me up for counseling, and B, has never seen a counselor, because in the 4th grade, they wanted to have me evaluated to see if I was sexually active. And they felt like my outlashing
was because of something like that.
Yes, was because of something
That's
like
interesting.
that, and not because I didn't have my mom.
Right.
Yeah. So
they always try to put something different onto a child.
Yeah.
When you knew, if they would have just gone deeper, they would have figured out exactly.
I mean, they could have just listened to my dad.
Yeah.
And my dad was just like, hello?
Yeah.
She's in 4th grade. So they didn't put me into counseling. And I think that if they had just found somebody else, maybe some safe space for me to talk, something, because instead of having somebody I felt like I could express the pain to, or even just work through the feelings. I didn't even know it was really pain at that point. But I feel like maybe it would have made all the difference for me as an adult.
Yeah.
Because now I'm trying to heal the parts of me that's broken as an adult, as a mother, as a child. And it plays into every single role of who I am today. And there's just no part of me that goes untouched whenever it comes to that trauma.
It's like phases too, because like you went through this, feeling abandoned, to which probably gave you an anxiety your whole life as a child.
My entire life.
So you had that anxiety as a child as well?
Yes. I didn't know that I had anxiety. I can remember a theater teacher pointing it out, actually. I was walking down the hall and she said, hey, whenever you come to class today, come and grab me. I want to talk to you about something. And I stopped and was like, I need you to tell me right now. And I started to have a panic attack. And she was like, okay, come on. Let's go into here. I didn't know that was a panic attack. I just knew that if there was some sort of unknown, I would start to feel uncomfortable. I didn't know what anxiety was at that point in my life. And I'd never really expressed it to my parents. And in my teenage years, I was very distant from them. And in a lot of ways, me and my dad especially. We had a very bad relationship whenever I was a teenager. Very, very bad. I moved out whenever I turned 18, or whenever I graduated high school, I should say. I moved out immediately following. There was a few times that I was kicked out, if you will, and left earlier in the years. At one point, whenever I was 17, this was whenever she came back into my life officially. My dad and I had gotten into an argument, and he was going to kick me out. And so I went to live with her for a month. And
I was going to ask that. Did she ever come back? Was my next question. So 17 years old.
Yep.
So from 9 to 17,
yes,
you were lost.
Yeah, completely.
Like that is such like a strong thing and a lot of people took that as something it wasn't. Yeah. Like, and so she came back at 17 and how was that? So you left your dad's house.
I left my dad's house for a month in the summer before I was a senior.
And went to mom's.
Went to mom's. Yep. And lived with her. She had lived only 30 minutes from me my entire life.
30 minutes.
Yep. And so
you could have like crossed paths with her so many times.
There was times that she worked in the same town. My stepmom will tell you that she can remember hiding in a JCPenney because she was working there in the same town that we were in, and they had to hire a private investigator to find her to be able to serve her with the custody papers, and she did not come to court.
Oh my goodness.
And I can still remember that when someone doesn't show up to court and they call for you. I'm sure you've been through this. And they call for you. If you don't answer, they go into the hallway and they call for you 3 times very loudly to make sure you're not like running down the hall, in hopes that maybe you are coming. You're just running late, you know? So they call 3 loud times and there's no response. So she was never there. So I think that, that was hard for me, but I was so desperate to have a relationship with her that I didn't really care. So when she came back in, I was so happy to have that relationship.
Even at 19?
Yeah.
Like it filled a hole for a little while. I'm 17,
yeah. I was 17 at this point.
It filled a hole a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. And I just was so desperate. I was so desperate for her to love me that it was exciting to change. It was like a new school for senior year.
My mom's here.
Yeah. Heck yeah. And she's a professional makeup artist. She's great at it. So I can remember as a kid watching, people ask me like, how'd you get good at your eyeliner or your makeup? I would obsessively watch Jaclyn Hill because I wanted to be good at my makeup so that if she came back, she would have something to compliment me on, or she would think that I was a natural.
So your whole life you did things, which breaks my heart. Always thinking of your mom who never gave herself to you 100%. Like you've always felt and craved that motherly, instinct that all little girls have.
Yeah, I did. And I think that month was really hard for us as we tried to learn each other. I think that it was very hard, and I don't think there was even a real big fight that happened or anything. I just remember a month later asking my dad if I could come back. Yeah.
In the beginning of that month, though, did it feel exciting for both of you? Do you felt like she was like, all right, my daughter's here? Did you feel that way, or did you feel like a burden?
In the first couple of weeks, I think that she was very excited
for it.
And then I started to feel like a burden. And then I started to feel like I was out of place and like I was ruining their life, the lifestyle, because she's remarried.
Okay.
And I was ruining the lifestyle that she had put in place for her and him. And, they had no kids. They were, single and having fun and, doing their thing. And I was...
The 17-year-old comes.
With a lot of trauma.
Absolutely.
And a lot of attachment issues.
Yes.
And didn't want to be away from her either. So I think it made things hard. And even though it made things hard, we still had a good relationship. And we still loved each other. And so from then until I joined the Army at 19, she was there for me during all of that. And
Mom's the Word podcast is recorded at the Museum of Neon Lights in Frisco, Texas.
It is a selfie studio open to the public.
Mention the podcast and you'll get an exclusive 10% off.
we had a good relationship, even though I had moved out. We still, spoke, and she had actually bought me my cell phone. I can remember, oh gosh, the last time I got spanked, I was 17.
What?
I was 17. I bowed up to my dad and called him a jerk. And he said, "Give me your phone." And I said, "You can't take my phone. This is my mom's phone." And he said, "Do you want to bet?" And he took my phone. So I can remember that, recalling that from the whole thing. So I just didn't have a good relationship with him.
Right.
And it was new with her, which any new relationship is so exciting and so thrilling. You're learning each other. And so I just...
Especially for you who didn't have that.
Oh, my God. I just wanted her so bad.
So bad.
So bad. And then at 18, I moved out. I joined the Army. At 19, I left. I shipped. That did not last long. I got hurt and came home shortly after. But... she was the one, they give you one last phone call before you go into basic training, and you get to say, "This is Private Blasting Game. I've arrived at Fort Leonard, Missouri. You'll hear from me in 2 weeks by mail. I love you. Goodbye."
I hear all those videos all the time.
And then you hang up. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
She was the one that got that call, not my dad, because me and my dad were not in a good place at all.
Right.
At all. And not to go too deep into that, because I feel like it's definitely a different conversation, but I got pregnant at senior prom. And my dad was like, "We're not playing house in my house. You are going to have to get your own things. You're going to have to do your own stuff. You've got to be an adult now. You make adult decisions. You're going to be an adult."
Wow.
I did miscarry and lose that baby, but I got out before that happened. I had an apartment. I didn't have a car. He took my car, so I had no transportation at that point. So I'd taken out, a loan to get a car and was doing my best. It got repossessed because I did not have the money to pay for a car. It was a $350 car payment a month for a little 2012 Honda Civic. It was, they got me.
But you had to do what you had to do.
But I had to do what I had to do. I was living in income-based apartments and just trying my best to be this adult that I thought that I was because I was 18. So then when all of that happened, it really put a bad relationship. It put bad things between me and my dad. Some of the things that he said that I don't feel are necessary to bring up because we do have a good relationship now.
Yes.
So I don't think it's necessary to air those things out. But
yes.
It was bad. It was very bad between him and I. So she was who I leaned on in that chunk of time. And then...
you said, it's major attachment for different people. So I feel like you attach to people and give them your all when that you feel like they're reciprocating that.
Yes.
So you attach to her, you let him go.
Yep. I shut down otherwise.
And sometimes a lot of kids or adults who have childhood trauma will attach and keep going. So they'll attach somebody until that person hurts them. They're going to attach to the next person.
I do that too.
Yeah.
I will say I do that too. And my best friend will point out, I'll be like, I'm going to go do this with this person. She'll be like, do you remember whenever and I'll be like, "Oh, snap, you are right." I will completely black it out as if it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I won't even remember it until it's brought up because it's almost like my brain does it.
Okay.
My brain has this hidden folder of trauma and it just shoves things back there because I'm so afraid of losing people in my life that I will allow them to treat me poorly because that's all I ever knew was love. That's what I grew up knowing. They're treating
me good right now.
Right.
Right in front of me for the one visit. But they shit on me, 15 more times.
Exactly.
And you're like, "Oh, you know what? Right here in front of me, though. We're besties right now." Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And that's so heartbreaking, though, because it's something that's going to continue in your life because you're looking for that. And you're in a great place now, and you're a strong woman, a strong family values and things like that. But it's still...
Even being in a great place, I'm still constantly dealing with the pain of it. And I think it gets deeper as my motherhood journey gets deeper.
Oh, it has to, I bet. I couldn't imagine.
17 to 25. We had a good relationship. And I say that with a grain of salt because I know that there were times that I felt uncomfortable or there was things that were said that would make me feel less. And I just would accept it because that's just who she is. That's just, this is what it is. And
you're used to it, unfortunately.
Right. And I just wanted to be her best friend so bad. I was just in this state of figuring myself out too. I think from 17 to 25.
Oh, yeah,
those are discovery years.
For sure.
You should do those not on the internet. Those are hard years. At least they were for me. They were rough.
Yes.
And I was in a same-sex marriage, and my dad was not very supportive of that at first. Not because he doesn't support that, but just because he thought that I was full of it. And so he said, "You've never dated girls before." And I said, "Well, I never liked a girl before. Like, I never found somebody that I genuinely wanted to be with. And
Right.
so he would chalk it up to, this is a phase. And so he didn't put any care or effort into that relationship, which hurt me very badly and kind of drove a further wedge between him and I, which only pushed me further to her, who was very accepting always. Whenever I was little, I can remember she never had a whole lot of friends.
Your mom?
Yes. All of her friends were drag queens. And they taught me how to Vogue. My uncle owned a gay bar, and we would go out there and dance to Madonna, and I would eat the cherries or the oranges out of the bar cart, or the olives out of the bar cart off the garnishes, So that's what I remember as voguing, and I knew that she would be accepting of me. And she was immediately. Absolutely. She was so accepting. And so to feel that love from a parent, it felt unconditional. Yes. And it was so nice to have that for that chunk of time. I needed her during that time, and I am thankful for that. So
things worked out in that way.
Yeah.
It healed you for a little bit.
And then I had Boston. And
you became a mother changed. And you're like, how? Exactly.
How did you do this? And then even worse than that, to watch her be a good grandma, to watch her desperately want to be around him and to call and check on him. And I wouldn't get a call on Christmas or my birthdays. So I think that became very difficult for me. And there was a spark of jealousy in there.
It's almost like your inner child yelling, like, this isn't fair.
Yeah.
Like,
it felt like,
I'm glad you love my child, but this isn't fair because I didn't get any of that.
No. And why are you pouring all of that into him? And you had nothing, not only from me, but from my other two sisters as well. It became so confusing, Cindy. It became so confusing as an adult to navigate through that, and to also still desperately as a child crave her attention and still want her to be around.
Right.
But I couldn't. And I try now.
Yeah.
I desperately try. We are not no contact, but we are very little contact, I will say. I think that there was a big argument that happened between the two of us whenever Boston was one. Where I felt like she was overstepping a boundary with me as a grandmother, and she was pushing too hard what she felt like I should do as a mother. And that enraged me in a large way, in a way that I never expected, because I was like, you never mothered me. You do not get to mother my children. And it was hard. It was very hard for me, but it drew a line. It drew a line in how far I will go as far as to letting her in anymore.
Yes.
Because I've realized how much pain that it puts me into.
Yeah.
And I think that the hardest part about having an abandoned parent, right? The hardest part is the part where you feel like it's your fault. You feel like something was missing in you, or you must have done something wrong. Maybe I was too hard as a baby, or too hard as a toddler, or maybe I don't know. I don't know. I will never understand. When I look at my children, I'll never understand why. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll never get it. I'll never understand how that person was able to go so many days and not wonder, what is she doing? What is she like right now? Does she like princesses or softball? Does she want, purple or pink? Those things that you want to know. I want to know everything about my child. And I think that is one of the hardest things for me, is that she didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't want that. And if she did, she didn't fight hard enough for it.
Yeah.
And I think that would have made all the difference if she'd have fought harder.
Yeah.
Or if at least I felt like she'd fought harder.
Showed up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I feel like that I'm in this position now as a foster mom, dealing with little girls just like you.
Yeah.
That I get to tell them, like, this isn't your fault.
Yeah.
You didn't deserve this. This should not have been the outcome. And some things are out of your control. And it's hard for me because, like, you can't replace that person. I will never replace that. Your stepmom will never replace that. But having an understanding of how it feels for you as an adult now makes me just, more sympathetic to these children, because it's something that's going to be with you forever, and them forever, and seeing them cry for their mom forever.
Yeah. That's one of the things I tell people when they ask me, because there's a lot of parents who are right now in that situation where mommy or daddy doesn't show up for their kid. And they're like, what do I do? How do I help them to not feel like this?
Yes.
The only thing you can do is try to put as much self-confidence as you can into that child, because they have to fill that void themselves.
Yes.
They have to be able to love themselves so much that they know they deserved better. And that it was never their fault, that it was something missing in that parent, not within that child.
That's right.
And that is ultimately...
Oh, that's so powerful.
That's what you have to do.
Something missing in that parent, not that child.
Not that child. That child is innocent and didn't ask to be
At
born.
all.
Didn't ask for this. And the fact that I will spend my entire life trying to repair that part of me that was broken as a child, it makes me angry. It makes me angry because I know that I deserved a better childhood. Yes. And I see other people with these great childhoods, and I'm just so jealous of the fact that some people just feel love all the time and support all the time. And some people, their parents pay for them to go to college and they help them set up their first apartment. And, I was riding the Metro bus 2 hours one way just to get to work.
Right.
Just because I was in ultimate survival mode for so long. So it just feels like I got cheated.
You did, though.
I hope that I can...
It's hard to explain, like, I could say, like, you got cheated because I came from one of those households where I felt loved all the time. So hearing you go through that and now me experiencing it with other, littles, it changes your whole perspective on being a mother. Yeah. Which I'm sure you as a mother, and I know this for a fact as a mother, and this is why you give your kids your all. When people are like, why are you so extra? Why are you always matching pajamas?
Yes.
It's because of what you went through.
Yeah.
So you're breaking all of those generational chains.
Yep. I will be the extra mom.
Right.
Because I didn't have that.
Yes.
And because I don't want them to ever question.
That's right.
If they were special, if they were perfect, if they were everything I ever wanted. I want them to think my mom loved me. You see those people who are like mama's boys, and they're like, oh, my mama, she takes care of me. I want to be that mama.
You are that mama.
I'm doing my damn best, man. I'm trying.
You are that mama.
I'm navigating motherhood and childhood trauma at the exact same time. And I never expected that becoming a mother would make it harder for me. I never thought that it would cause me to not be able to even really have a good relationship with her anymore. Because I think as a child, I was desperate. As a teen and a young adult, I craved it. And now as a mother, I don't understand it. And there's that quote, as a child, I forgave you. And as a mother, I'll never understand. Yep. And I think it's just the truest thing.
And now you're protecting your children.
Yeah.
So they never experience that.
Yeah. Yeah. No matter what, if Mark and I, God forbid, please, please, if Mark and I don't work out, I would never keep my child from him.
Right.
And I pray that he would never do the same to me. And I don't think that he ever would. But that's one of the things that was constantly said was, you were kept from me. And I have said, there's just no way in hell. Because if he tried to say, you cannot come see your child, I would live in a tent on his sidewalk until he let me see my child.
Right.
There is no me that's going to be like, okay.
Let it go.
I guess I'll, mosey on down the road and do what I got to do until she's 18.
Right.
There's just no way. I could never have been that person. I would have burned the sidewalk
But
down.
that's why you're the mother you are today.
Yeah.
That is why you give your kids your all.
Mm-hmm.
You give your co-parenting relationship your all. Mm-hmm. You're giving people who you love your all. Like when people are friends with you, I feel like you're giving everybody every part of you.
I don't know how to not.
I know. I know that.
I don't know how to only do things in little ways.
Right.
I am an all or nothing type of woman, and I'm trying to learn how to not be that way. But in the same time, I also think it's something special about me is because I love very hard.
You do.
I love very
Your
hard.
emotion is right there on your sleeve with everybody.
I can't hide a doggone thing. Never.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it fun? Ain't it fun?
I really appreciate you sharing this because this is very sensitive. Mm-hmm. And I just feel a lot of people need to hear it, including me, including foster parents out there need to hear this. or people going through a divorce need to hear this. And so I appreciate you sharing.
Of course.
Very vulnerable.
I think it's important also for people to know just for me as a person, because I think that when you see me now, you see this happy mom who's living this great life with her dentist husband in this house. It's beautiful.
Yes.
You know, and you see the picture that it is now. But the pain behind the person I've built myself into is 26 years deep. I am just barely at the tip of this happiness.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's only really been in this last 4 years that my life has drastically changed. And I feel like I'm finally seeing, you know, the benefit of all the work that I've done.
Absolutely.
Finally seeing the benefits of it.
Yeah.
For so long, it was pain. And a lot of it stems right from that abandonment.
The beginning.
Yeah, from the very beginning. I think it starts right when they leave, from that very first time.
This is a great lesson for us moms, because we show up every day for our kids, no matter what. I can be tired, worn thin, and sick, but we show up and give our all to them. Mm-hmm. So this is a great lesson for that too, because it is hard.
You have somebody's childhood right there in your hands. Yeah. Heavy stuff. Heavy stuff.
We thank you guys for letting us share this type of things, because it is hard for us to be this vulnerable and share this whole part of you. So thank you for being brave for us.
Thanks for being a safe space for me to share it too.
We are each other's safe place. So.
We are in a lot of ways. And I think we teach each other a lot.
We do.
Because we are the very opposite.
Literally. Yeah, we are.
Very opposite. But it's
been great.
It's been great. Thank you guys so much for watching today's episode and for being vulnerable with me. And as always, guys, keep the giggles going.
And the love flowing. And until next time,
Mom knows best.
Or at least she's trying her best.
She is trying her best.
Her very best.
Sometimes.